What's going on, guys? Welcome to an episode of the BORA Speed Report. This is a BORA-related podcast, if you want to call it that. Something we haven't done in a while, but now we're going to try keeping up with it since we have the online and offline portions. For the online side of things, I'm here with the BORA co-owner, Spike Buck, as you guys know him.
Hey guys.
Alright, so he sounds a little upset to be here, but this was his idea to record. So,
No.
in this first episode back and new revamped format, we're just going to talk about last week's races from the BORA GP series at Germany, the BORA Cup series from Sonoma. We're going to talk about a couple driver swaps that are happening, a preview of this upcoming week. But before we get to all that, I do want to quickly plug the BORA social medias. They're very important to follow if you're part of the offline or online side of things. The Twitter at BrosORA, BrosORA. Facebook, it's just BORA. And then the Discord, which is probably the most important thing to be in. There's little sub-channels for literally everything BORA related. So, any question you may have, if you want to keep up with things, that's the place to do it. But, nonetheless, let's get into the BORA GP Series race recap from Germany. I think there were 14 drivers in that race. 14 drivers for Germany, and I'd say by lap 5, there was 7 drivers remaining. Spike, what were your thoughts on the start of that race? The leader wrecked out, or the pole sitter wrecked out on lap 1 from the lead. I was avenged.
Yeah. I don't know, man. The rain was it was rough on the drivers. Just kind of just watching them fall out one after one. And I mean, it just wasn't good.
That was, I believe, the first race since the season opener at Hungary where there was a safety car. But there wasn't just one safety car, was there? By lap 10, there had been 2 safety cars. Half the field was wiped out. I know, as a matter of fact, from my perspective, during the second safety car, I made contact with a car who didn't really know what he was going for there. He passed people and then kind of stopped, and it broke my wing. And then upon pitting, I sped, and then I had another penalty for some reason. I can't remember what that was. So I had to pit 3 times right after that safety car, and naturally people stopped wrecking at that point. So I couldn't really make up ground. You had quite the eventful day. Let's hear about it.
Well, I mean, I led early. Well, after Avenged gave me the lead, wrecking out on lap 1. I led for a while. I was doing okay at keeping the car in one piece, and we had those safety cars in the second one. My screen got shut off, like getting ready to take the green, which made me kind of veer off track. And I mean, if you get passed under caution or under a safety car, you lose your spot until you get back in the line. And so then I had to play the chase mode, which just got me into wrecking myself with the rain. So it was eventful, all right.
That is true. And then I believe the person who ended up passing you for the lead was one of the Mercedes, South 24 Nation, and it was his race to lose at that point. He the long green flag run really helped him. The faster cars getting placed in the back, not counting you obviously, you were up there towards the front, but a lot of the guys who looked like they had a shot to win were in the back for that final safety car restart. And by this point, the rain is still coming down. It's almost wet tire weather, but it's still intermediates. And he was able to check out. I think you had stayed somewhat close, but that restart was kind of rough. And then really not much happened. I mean, a couple people kept wrecking out. The field got spread out really quickly. The wet weather really shows who can drive and who can't. Especially at Germany, it's a really fast track. To be fast, you have to really push it, and it separates the driver roster pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Without that second safety car that he would have been able to get around me, he was having trouble, and I'd be able to pull away before that. But when he got around me like that, I had the same issue, and I couldn't get back by him, and he finally pulled away.
Yeah, I've noticed in that race, a lot of people were faster than the cars in front of them. But, man, whenever it's raining that hard, it's super hard to pass. You can't really see. You don't want to run them over, so you brake early, and it's really hard to gain, even if you know you're faster than them. for 5 or 6 laps, I was stuck behind Dirt Racer, one of the Alfa Romeo drivers, and I was clearly much faster. This was when the rain was starting to dry up, and I was on really old inners, and he had just pit. That's how I caught him. I think at this point you were still second. And, man, you have to wait for them to screw up the pass. And the one thing I noticed about South 24 Nation is he rarely makes mistakes. Hungary, he definitely had a top 2 car, and a mistake put him back there to about 4th, and then charging late. He got past, selected for 3rd, and then the whole Avenged King disqualification moved him up to 2nd. But, man, he was coming in that race. So, let's get back onto the topic, though. You had a little incident with about 10, 15 laps to go. You want to talk us through that?
You're talking about me wrecking myself out.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
It's unfortunate. Anyway, so I mean, with the rain, I got off in the grass and I knocked my wing off, which just impacts the whole not being able to drive in the rain situation. And one of the hairpin turns on the track, I came down in a little too hot. And then that kind of forced me to get off the corner a little too hot trying to catch South Nation. And I just spun myself and wrecked. Broke the front wheel off and ended our day. So that was wonderful. Very great situation.
And you were still second at that point, right?
Yeah, so I was still second at that point. And I mean, it was pretty much going to be a second place finish for the day easily. And I just lost it. But, I mean, this is following China, where I was leading the race and wrecked myself out also on like lap 2. So, yeah.
So, from then on, I believe you were the second to last retiree. That put you 6th, I believe. I think Big Boy had fallen a couple laps down, and I don't think he was ever able to pass you. But the F1 2019 server was a little sketchy, and TF Silence had qualified. I don't know where he qualified. It was towards the front. He might have been the pole sitter, honestly, or I think he qualified second. And he kind of like got disconnected, but he was able to rejoin. But he wasn't in our race per se. Like, he could see us, and we could only see like one wheel from him. But he was still like on the same like leaderboard, like, you know, like the scoreboard and all that. So he was still able to pick up spots. Just he couldn't really we couldn't really race him. But he did rebound to a 5th. He had fastest lap, which was really unfortunate because he probably would have won the race, for being honest. He was really quick. But after you wrecked out, Smoke just wasn't ever really able to close in. He was already really far behind at that point. And when I ride past Dirt Racer, that was the battle for the final podium spot. So the rain continued. It was a 35 or 30. It was a 36 lap race, and the rain continued to about lap 31. And once it dried, man, it dried really quickly. There was 4 or 5. There was 5 cars remaining, 4 on everyone's screen, 5 total if you're counting TF. And once the rain stopped, I hadn't pit since the second safety car, or I guess technically since like the 3rd lap after the second safety car, because I had all the penalties. So my tires were 20 laps old at that point, and it was drying very quickly. So once I had passed Dirt Racer, the leader was coming up on us because no safety cars. I had to pit a bunch, and he was just dropping off tremendously at the end. My tire ended up blowing on the last lap, midway through Sector 2, so that allowed Dirt Racer to close up a 1.5 seconds on me. He had a 3-second time penalty late for track extending, but he was still pushing just to say he crossed line 3rd. And it was a photo finish for P3, but I was able to hold on. So the official results for the top 5 were South 24 Nation, then you had FGC Smoke, me, Extangle Pelt, Dirt Racer 711, and then TF Silence, with Spike finishing 6th, as we mentioned earlier. So, congrats to South 24 Nation. He ended up winning the $25 because we had over 10 drivers. So, now let's move over to the BORA Cup Series side of things, where the race was a lot more eventful, but in a negative way, I'd say. Alright, now let's move on over to the BORA Cup Series side of things from Sonoma. This was race number 3, and I want to quickly say, hopefully this doesn't ruffle some feathers, we had a lot of people wanting to swap the race from Sonoma to the Roval. It's a road course we're not running yet. That's hard, but Sonoma is a broken track in NASCAR Heat 4. I will fully admit that. So I put up the option to do in the Discord. That's why you guys need to join the Discord if you're not already. To do a swap from Sonoma to the Roval. Sonoma won the pole, so we kept it at Sonoma. A lot of people weren't happy about that, but they still raced. But I could tell they weren't really giving their full effort. They were kind of annoyed by it, which is fine. We had 10 drivers for Sonoma, so the winner still got $25. That is the rule. And Sonoma is definitely a hard track, but if you practice, you understand how to drive it. Sonoma,
All right, I gotta say this.
Okay.
All right. So you can attest to this that I was even one of the people that didn't want to race there. And by the end of the race, after actually trying the entire race, I was turning laps as fast as you, or faster.
Yeah.
There was no reason for anybody to purposely wreck out or just leave because they weren't doing good. Whatever. Because, I mean, it ended up being a pretty good race.
Sonoma is one of those tracks where I said this for the Germany earlier, but Sonoma is one of those tracks where it really separates the good from the average. And it just takes a little practice. To be fast at Sonoma, you have to go slow. And I know that sounds annoying to hear, but you got to brake early. You got to use a lot of brake. It sets the car down when it wants to do that nonsense when it wants to flip itself, which is totally unrealistic, and I completely agree where the complaints are coming from. But once you get used to the track, you know how to drive it. It's a fun track to drive. It's a fun track to race, and it put on a good show in the final sector, or the final stage. But anyways, let's get started. Qualifying, 10 cars. I think pole time to second place was separated by 2/10, which is very surprising. I ended up getting pole over EJC at 8:14. I think I ran a 1:32.9, and in the whole week of practicing, that was my only 1:32 I ever ran. So I was definitely going lights out there. And EJC ran, I think, a 1:32.1 or a 1:32.2. So
yep. Yeah, I had a
tenths.
terrible qualifying time, like a 1:36, which actually isn't that terrible compared to the rest of them. I think I qualified third or fourth.
Yeah. You were third, and Dirt Racer was fourth. And so I thought, hey, we actually have competition this race, man. It's gonna be great. You can tell the people who didn't really qualify or who didn't really practice, which, hey, man, practice isn't mandatory, obviously, but it definitely helps if you want to contend for the championship or contend for a win. So I don't really have the full qualifying order here, but I do know that first to last in qualifying was separated by like 15 seconds. So there was definitely a curve there. And hey, that's what happens. It's a long race. 56 laps from Sonoma takes a long time. There's 2 stage breaks. We did manual caution this time because all 3 races we've tried different caution systems. Daytona, we did relaxed cautions, and there were 2 flips in that race, and the race went caution free. So, relax is definitely broken at Super Speed Race. So we're like, okay, Phoenix, let's go strict cautions. There was cautions for everything. Hitting the wall, getting loose, spinning. So there were too many cautions, and that kind of pushed a couple of drivers away that hadn't returned. Which, I mean, I get it, but it's a new league. You gotta be patient. So we're like, alright, from now on, we'll run relaxed cautions with manual cautions that we do ourselves. And I think that's the way to go. Only cautions for multi-car crashes. You can't just spin on your own and expect a caution. But if there is a crash that the game thinks is substantial enough, it'll throw a caution itself. And it's, hey, man, at that point, it should be a caution. If strict cautions thinks it is. So it worked. Sonoma, the caution system worked really well. The first stage, we actually went caution-free, which I didn't expect. I thought the carousel would for sure wipe people out. And it did, but only one at a time. So the first stage was 12 laps. And I'll be honest, I had a 55-second lead after stage 1. So I'm thinking this race is going to be amazing. Pit stops, everyone makes changes to their cars. Tires are gone by that point. And I don't know about you, Spike, but I was feeling really good about my chances at that point.
I was still feeling like I was going to end up second or third at that point. So, and that was if I could get back through the field after being where I was. So, pit stop cycles were kind of rough on my track position and couldn't really get anything gained for a while there. But
so stage 3 begins. I'm sorry, were you talking?
No.
Okay, my bad.
You're good.
So stage 3 begins. Let's talk. Stage 1 actually ended with I won stage 1, obviously. Spike himself right here got second. Selected got third. Marksman Jr. 7123 got fourth. And then Elder 3888 finished fifth. We only award stage points to the top 5 in a 5-to-1 order for points. So stage 2 begins. Dirt Racer 711, I believe, grabbed the lead. Or he stayed out or something. I don't know. A couple people actually picked before the stage ended because he didn't finish top 5 in points, but I know for sure he grabbed the lead. And I restarted second to his outside, and there's a little contact, and I went off track, and that, I don't know what happened, but man, my car did not want to go in dirty air. Dirt Racer pulled out to about a 15-second lead for the majority of the stage. There was a really good battle for majority of it for second. I know it was between me, you, Elder. I think Selected was there for a little bit before he accidentally left. Because NASCAR Heat 4, if you don't know, if you pause the game and you hit circle, or B, depending on your Xbox, you leave. That's not how you back out of a pause menu like any other game. So it's very easy to leave on accident, which he did. Which is very unfortunate for him because I think he had a top 5 car. He finished third in stage 1. But we had a pretty solid battle. EJC was up there momentarily, but he dropped off very quickly.
Yeah, pretty much every run he would drop off after a couple
laps. He was very
laps.
good on the short run, but after that battle subsided, 12 laps later, the finishing results were Dirt Racer 711, then me, ex-Singapore. EJC actually finished third in stage 2. Spike finished fourth, and then Marksman returned to finish fifth. So we got 1 point. So if you're keeping up, stage points, that's 9 for me. That is 6 for Spike. That's 5 for Dirt Racer. That is 3 for Selected, 3 for EJC, and 3 for Marksman. No one else receives stage points. And by this point in the race, end of stage 2, NASCAR Man 101, MD Slider, who made his first start, and Selected had all either lagged out or disconnected. I'm going to assume they're all disconnected, but I think NASCAR Man might have lagged out. I'm not really sure. I never really asked him. But he's not really one to just...
I believe they all left.
Well, I don't know. Either way, so there's 8 cars remaining, or 7 cars remaining, excuse me. It was a really short field, but winner still gets 25 because it's 10. So right now, at this point, I didn't do it, is multiple laps down. I think Marksman has fallen 1 lap down at this point as well. I think Elder is the last only lap. Marksman, myself, and Spike entered this race 3, tied it for the points lead. So these stage points are very crucial right now. Stage 3 starts off. It's a long stage. I think it's like 28 laps or something like that. It's very long. And honestly, I don't remember how the stage started. Do you?
So we went... Where was it? All I know is I started in the back of the stage. Or on the stage restart, I started in the back. And the first few corners all the way almost to the carousel were kind of a cluster. There's a lot of contact and couldn't really get away from each other. And I got from where I restarted all the way to, I believe, first, just in the carousel. So, or actually, no, that's not true at all. We had a caution late in the stage, or at least halfway through the stage.
Yeah, no.
That was set up the end.
The first 2 stages went caution free. Stage 3 that's where the cautions started coming. I believe in the first 5 laps of stage 3, we had like 2 or 3 cautions. Which caution laps only take 2 laps. You pit the first lap, and then you just go green the next lap. We actually had a relaxed caution actually come out because of a big pile up in the carousel, which was very surprising. But the turning point in the race, I was still a major contender at this point. The turning point is Elder had gotten turned around or dumped by EJC. I'm not real sure, like, if he spun prior and EJC hit him or what happened. But Elder was saying that was a multi-car crash and it should be caution. I'm like, okay. So we pit, and he actually comes out first. But due to not paying attention prior to one of the previous cautions, we had allowed whoever was involved in the crash to restart first. He said, hey, you didn't do that earlier. You can't do that now. I'm starting up front. You didn't make them start in the back. And I'm like, all right, well, moving forward, that is placed in the rulebook permanently. If you're involved in a crash, I don't care if you come out first. You're restarting in the back, as it should be. So he restarted first. I was second. Spike was third, or maybe fourth. And Elder...
I was like 5th or 6th, actually. I passed everybody because they were wrecking.
All right, well, 5th or 6th. You were up to third very fast.
Yeah.
Elder, very good driver. Sonoma's not his cup of tea. He has a tendency, and this is not a trash-talking podcast. I'm just giving you my side of things from the race. Might give you his side. Maybe in the future we'll invite guests on from the race. Who knows? But my side of things, I was very quick all race. I had a minute lead at the end of Sector 1 after 12 laps. I'd lapped a few people under green. So I was here to win, man. This is midway through Stage 3. I think there's probably 15 to go. And Elder he'd be behind you. He wouldn't hit you or nothing, but he would drive in so deep or dive bomb, and it would keep giving him the lead, but he would be slower on exit, so it would hold whoever's behind him up. He did that to a bunch of people. Not dirty. I mean, if you can get away, all fine. I could not get away. Spike was able to get away during this. He came from behind and passed us both. I don't remember how, but let's just say Elder almost got the chrome horn multiple times. By the time I was able to get clear of Elder and Dirt Racer, because he was in the same battle, Spike already had like a 6-second lead. And then due to overdriving, that allowed him to pull out to a 10-second lead. With me in second, Elder long gone at this point, like 30 seconds back. And Dirt Racer was up to third. And me and him were close, like 2 seconds. At Sonoma, that's very close, especially in that race on Thursday. Spike, who I'd practiced with a lot during this past week. Same as Phoenix. I gave him my setup for Phoenix, and he beat me with it. I finished second to him. At this point, it's finally starting to learn the track, and it's showing. I had gone from 6 seconds to 10 seconds, and I was slowly reeling him in. I think over the span of 10 laps, I was like 6 seconds back. I'd gained like 4 seconds. However, the last 2 laps, man, Elder was getting in Spike's head, mentioning stuff from Phoenix last week, and just the pressure of holding on these final few laps at a hard track was getting to him, and it got me down to within 3 seconds, but unfortunately, it didn't matter. Spike ended up winning his second race in a row. He's taking $50 from me now at this point. And I come in second
great year
again to him. And then Dirt Racer comes home third. So if you guys don't know, that's a CMS 1, 2, 3. That's Spike and our teammates. And Dirt Racer, third place. Very happy with him. I expect him to be a big threat for the win because when we practiced, he was running lap times consistent with me. But his problem is, this isn't insulting, he just wasn't able to put them together for a long run like Spike did. I wasn't even able to do that. So, Spike wins the race. The official results were, I was able to find the paper. I couldn't find the paper earlier. The official results were Spike Buck, and then me, X-Tangle and then Dirt Racer 711. EJC comes home for 4th place finish. Elder fell down to 5th late in the race. Marksman gets 6th. I didn't do it. Was just happy to be there at the end. He got 7th, multiple laps down. And the DNFs were
very proud of him for finishing the race.
I am too, man. If you guys don't know, I didn't do it. He's Damien. You guys probably know who Damien is. He's not like he likes NASCAR. He's watched a lot of the races. He watched the Coke 600. He watched the second Darlington race. But this was his first, or I guess second NASCAR game. But he only downloaded it for the league. He had no laps of practice going into last week at Phoenix. He downloaded it and immediately joined. And he didn't do terribly. He finished 7th out of like 12 or 10. And then he gets 7th again. And he didn't leave. Sonoma's a really hard track, and he probably flipped 6 times. But you know what? He didn't give up. And he got 7th. He scored 30 points again. My man at 60 points total. And he ended up beating Selected, MD Slider, and NASCAR Man 101. All because he just stuck through it. He didn't complete all 56 laps. Don't even know if he completed 50, but he tried his best.
Yep.
That was the official.
I'm proud of him.
That 3-way tie from the points now is at the top 3. Same drivers. Separated by 12 points, with Spike having the lead 2 points over me. 12 over Marksman. Dirt Racer 711 is 17 back. And then NASCAR Man 101, 5th in points, 29 back. EJC is a 40 back. Selected 42 back. All the way down to MD Slider at 91 points back. Using the real life points format. 40 for the win, 35 for second. And then counting the up to 10 stage points. So, I guess we'll let you talk now since you won your second race.
Man, I don't really. I didn't expect to be all that great in the NASCAR league this season. I don't really love the game too much as I did like the past NASCAR games. I was looking forward to F1, and it's been pretty much terrible this year for me. So it's been cool getting all your money. That's been really nice. Managed to fill up my gas tank 2 weeks in a row, so it's cool. But yeah, I didn't expect it. I was able to finally put some laps together in a row that were fast because I averaged like a 138 usually, and I was averaging 133s for like 5 laps straight. So that let me get out to the lead that I needed and just put them together. But yeah, I did let Elder speaking get in my head at the end of the race because he's holding on to some anger from Phoenix for some reason. I don't really know why, but
And if you guys do want to see
it
what he's
worked out.
talking about by that, you can go to either our Facebook or our Twitter to see the last half lap or so of the Phoenix race. It shows perfect view of what happened. It was just a racing incident, but when you lose a race and $25 like that in the final corner, it can be frustrating. So I get it. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't really. It was cool. I didn't expect to be winning that race at all. I didn't really expect to be winning Phoenix either because neither of those tracks were my favorite going into the race. So it's been good. It's been a really good year, and hopefully we can get some more drivers coming in. We lost a couple for this week's race, which if it happens, happens, I suppose. So we're always looking for more, and we're building for sure.
And I gotta say, so I know it seems, I don't know, weird that the two league owners teams keep finishing 1, 2, 3, but the reason for that is we practice throughout the week a lot, and it's not like anyone can join our practices. We've practiced with pretty much everyone in the league at this point. We just practice a lot. We like racing the track. We just enjoy racing together. So if we're ever on and you're wanting to practice, there's a good chance we'll invite you if you want. Just message us. But at Phoenix, Spike did the same thing he did at Sonoma. I think he sandbags, if I'm being honest. If you have run Phoenix on the Cup cars at NH4 enough to understand how lap times, the lap times for that track with no setups, just pit adjustments. I was running 20, what, I don't know. I can't remember if it's 27, 28. Whatever the best lap time is, 0.0 ones, and this man is running 0.8, so he's 7/10 off. And then in the race, he comes and just takes my money, and I finish second.
Yep.
So he hasn't got a pole yet,
Yeah.
so that's why I keep thinking he might not be sandbagging, because why wouldn't you want to start up front? But he's proven he doesn't need to.
I just got to be there at the end. That's what's good about the stages. I mean, we had them off for Daytona, and I think we really needed them on. But you can just hang out for the first part. And I mean, at Phoenix, you almost had to just hang out. You either had to be leading the race or stay back. I mean, Elder was having connection issues, which wasn't helping at the beginning of Phoenix at all. So, but no, I'm not sandbagging. I just get better over the however many laps each race is. It's a lot more practice.
Yep. So now that we have the race recaps done, little bit of GP news. So if you've kept up the GP or you heard what we said earlier, Spike and I are teammates over there too. We're both on Ferrari. Dirt Racer 711 and EJC are on Alfa Romeo. Kind of like a sister team. We just practice with them a lot. And Spike came to me last week after, I think probably Wednesday, after the GP race, whenever he spun from second and wrecked out at Germany. Could have his first podium of the season. He led a couple laps. He felt like he had a good car. And he said that he does, I don't know. He wanted to swap rides with Dirt Racer, have Dirt Racer run Germany, or run Ferrari at Baku, and he run Alpha, be teammates with EJC. And Dirt Racer was down for it. So for Baku at least, they will be swapped rides. Dirt Racer will be at Ferrari, Spike down at Alpha. And I don't know, what was your reasoning for that? Like, I mean, I think I already said your reasoning.
Well,
Elaborate more.
that's almost the reasoning. I mean, there is more reasoning, which can probably stay private. It's an ego thing, I think, with Dirt Racer. I'm gonna just see what he can do in a better car because he thinks he can. So, it should be interesting. I plan on being back in the Ferrari after Baku, so as long as I can beat him by a few positions, which shouldn't be too hard, I'll be back in the Ferrari within a week.
All right, a little bit of shade there. I love it. All right.
Yeah.
So, let's end the podcast here with some previews for this upcoming week. Obviously, we just mentioned the GP series is heading to Baku, Azerbaijan. A very difficult track. It's the first street circuit of the season. And man, if we get 14 drivers again, which I think we should, we've been pretty consistent on the GP side, pretty consistent on the Cup side too. We've had 10 2 straight weeks, and we've had 14 2 straight weeks over on GP. But or we've had 12, I think, 12 14. Either way, I honestly, that is such a hard track. Turn 1 alone is difficult on their start, and I don't know. I think starting in the back is gonna be the way to go at Baku. I'm not saying I'm going to sandbag qualifying specifically, but I'm saying whoever does either skip qualifying or just run a mediocre lap or just runs a bad lap in general, I think they will be in an advantage and almost guaranteed themselves getting points. I don't know. The thought of having a bunch of people starting behind you, everyone in the league is clean. That's one thing I will say. No one's just dumped someone intentionally. No one's like cut tracks just to exceed a position, etc. But Baku is just another beast, man. Turn 1 is difficult. Turn 2 is very difficult because it thins out and it's a sharp left turn. And then you have a long straightaway down to chicane. That opening lap, really, but the opening sector specifically is going to be one that either you want to have the lead and pull away, or you just want to be in
the back. Yeah. I don't know, because, I mean, you could be in the back, and if the car's in front of you, well, wreck, which is a great possibility with how sharp the turns are. And a couple of them don't ghost. You could end up wrecking your race right off the bat, even starting in the back. It's really tough. I mean, you either need to start on the pole and get an amazing start, or pretty much don't start at all. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a really tough race. When it's not raining there, I have trouble getting around the track for 3 laps. So it ought to be interesting to run a ton of laps there.
Yeah, that's going to be a track specifically. I know people always say it, but you're going to have to run the track there and not worry about competition. I don't know what 50% of Baku is. I'm assuming like 28, 30, something like that. You're going to have to just race the lap counter at that point. You're not going to worry about the left side of the screen that shows where you're at, because that doesn't matter. I've seen on multiple times, just in little fun races that we've done, 5 laps is hard, man. Usually at least one person wrecks out in a 4-race lobby. So I imagine with a big field, money on the line, people trying to push for it, one little mistake, man. The pit straight, the front straightaway, has that little winding section, kind of like really long stretch out S's, that it's so easy to hit the wall through there. The final lap, a lot of slipstream, people have been slingshotting each other all throughout the race, but specifically the last lap. Maybe someone tries blocking, it's hooked into the wall. There's going to be so many opportunities to better yourself, but put you in a sketchy situation that you almost just don't want to go for it. So I feel like if you can make it halfway through, you're guaranteed points, but you're probably guaranteed a shot at a top 5, maybe even a podium. That's how... After Germany, I don't even know what to expect anymore. One thing I will point out, though, that is in favor of the league is race 1, Hungary. Turn 1's not really hard, but it's very easy to dive bomb. Race 2 is China. Everyone knows how the first corner is through there. It's you 3-4 wide, and then it tightens up. Race 3 was Germany, and that little brief right-hander first corner, it's so easy to spin there because of the curb. And then it goes down into a sharp turn as well. There has not been a wreck on the opening corner all season. Not even a spin. Everyone's held on to it. Which is...
However,
we
haven't been... The front straightaway at Baku is much longer from where you start than those other tracks, and you get up a lot more speed and then go through a much sharper first turn.
That is true.
So
I expect the runoff
to be interesting.
Baku. I'm just saying, if history repeats itself, turn 1 should be pretty interesting. However, looking at last week, the leader did wreck out on lap 1 and bring out a safety car. If this race is in the rain, I guarantee that'll happen this week. Maybe not the leader, but a lap 1 safety car. If it's dry, I say first 5 laps. Baku is just such a hard track, and I've wrecked out before lap 5, and I've raced there a ton. It's just, you hit a curb wrong, get loose, hit the wall. The castle section is so tight that you can't go side by side, and if someone tries going side by side, you're probably both going to die. It's so many opportunities to wreck out. But anything else you got to say about Baku, or do you want to move on to the Cup Series?
We could probably move on. It's going to be an interesting race.
Very interesting. I'm honestly, I don't know. I'm expecting a Mercedes to win again. If Mercedes doesn't, I don't even know who I expect, to be honest. But heading on to the BORA Cup Series Race 4. It's the first mile-and-a-half race of the season. It's from Las Vegas, Sin City. And I don't really know what to expect from there, man. We have such a diverse schedule on the Cup Series side. I'd say we have a diverse schedule on the F1 side as well. But this is the 4th race in the Cup Series. We've gone to Daytona, a big plate track, to Phoenix, a 1 mile, not really short track, but not really intermediate. Then we went to Sonoma, a really difficult road course, and now we're going to the first mile and a half. And we've seen different people run up front, but Las Vegas is one of the mile and a halves that's weird, because you almost have to run the outside in turns 1 and 2, and you must run the bottom in turns 3 and 4. The turn 4 wall is very sketchy. It's very easy to hit, and I don't know, man. There's going to be a lot of interesting strategies taking place at Las Vegas. It's going to be a great opportunity to make up points for some of the guys who have had a rough stretch. And yeah, we're continuing with the relaxed caution / manual caution format we're doing. It worked out well at Sonoma. And
Yeah, I think we're gonna have different people in the front for this race, or at least more people contending. This season's kind of been like other than Daytona, so the last 2 races have had the same people leading the race or being kind of close to leading the race. The mile and a halves in this game are a lot. Oh, it's a lot easier to be better at them, I guess. So it should be a lot closer race. I think we'll have EJC up front. Dirt Racer's been up front, but I think he may stay up front a little bit better here.
he has 2 straight
We'll
thirds
just
to
have to see
finish,
what happens.
so he's around at the end, but not really to contend. Phoenix
Yeah.
could have contend. He was not very far back. I will say, though, it's interesting you mention different people up front, because looking at the last 2 races, we had the exact same top 5, except for 4th. You won the last 2 races. I finished 2nd the last 2 races. Dirt Racers finished 3rd the last 2 races. And Elder has finished 4th and 5th last race. So we've had 4th and 5th place. But Elder's been in the top 5 for twice, just 4th and 5th. We've had Marksman in the top 5. And we've had EJC in the top 5. Or not Marksman, we had Hyper in the top 5 last week. And then we had EJC this past week. So I expect Marksman to be a threat this upcoming week. Selected should be a threat. He's pretty solid there. Elder and MD Slider. Elder you never want to count out at a mile and a half. Or any oval, really. MD Slider, I haven't raced with him enough to know, but he's one of Elder's friends, and I assume he'll be good. And then, yeah, Flower. If Flower's at the GP or the Cup race, which hopefully Flower is, I enjoy racing with Flower. Always makes the party chat interesting. I'm expecting a top 10. Yeah, I think it's a safe bet.
I think it could happen.
Yeah.
I think I didn't do it's probably gonna end up pretty close to the front this week. He was the practice races that we've done so far this week. He's been getting better. The practice races that I've seen he's done this week, he was doing better at least. So
if he could just get used to, so he has this habit of either not using enough brake or using way too much brake. Once he figures out the happy medium, I think he'll be good, because he does a good job keeping his car clean. And for as much as people want to rag on him during the races, he's genuinely trying his best. And he's good at video games, so once he figures it out, I think he'll be a threat. I don't think he'd be a championship threat just because of the hours he works. He's not always able to race. Sometimes he has to close, sometimes he gets open, sometimes he's off. Just like anyone else. But retail is the hard thing. So I'm not sure if he'll be at the race this weekend. I know he has 4 days off in a row starting tomorrow, so he's off Thursday. What do you know? He gets to race. And I know that because he's my roommate. So he has a new kitten to take care of. But that is the Cup Series preview, the GP Series preview, and I think that's it. Anything else you'd like to mention from the BORA online stuff?
not really. I mean, that's probably covered about everything. Let's see what happens this week, I guess.
Yep. All right. So the next part of this that you will hear is me and Nick Ventura discussing the online side of things, or the offline side of things from BORA, the Memorial Day Classic from Sunday, and the FedEx Amateur Series from yesterday. So, with that, I want to thank you for helping me out here, Spike. And I don't know what that was. Was that a sneeze?
Thank you. Yeah, that was a sneeze.
Bless you, buddy.
Uh,
All right. Thanks for coming on.
yeah, no problem.
All right, and here we are with Nick Ventura, driver of the 71 in the Call of Duty Premier Series. Nick, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Well, how am I doing? Pretty good. All right, so let's jump right into the Memorial Day Classic, the third annual, the final race of the round of 12. 4 drivers got cut out from the playoffs on Sunday. Nick, you obviously finished 5th and advanced to the next round, so congrats on that. But I'm not going to give a full race breakdown like I did for the online portions, because these races are on YouTube. You can go watch them if you want. Whatever I could have added, I added in the race. So, the results from that race, and this is a major spoiler warning, but okay. Donovan Dewitt gets the win in the Memorial Day Classic. He's not a playoff driver. Then you had Alexander Rose second. Evan Byrne finished third. He is the highest finishing playoff driver. Danny Coffey fourth. Pretty good run for him. Nick here finishing fifth, so pretty good run for that small team. Eli Bright got sixth. Isaiah Ford seventh in that underfunded car. Otto Belmont eighth. Damian Stone got ninth, and Jay Jefferson got 10th. Pretty good run for him. He's had a tough couple weeks. Other playoff drivers, so 10 of them to be exact. David Strait 17th. Mo Akers 20th, Dylan Abrahamian 22nd, TJ Friend 23rd, Gustav Odenberg 26th, TJ Hanley 31st, Max Anderson 32nd, Zach Fitzpatrick Sr. 34th, that was my bad, Ryan Winters 38th, and Nick Flood 39th. So, honestly, to run well in the Memorial Day Classic, ironically as it is, you just had to make it to the end. If you did that, you were guaranteed a good finish. It's kind of strange that Eli Bright didn't come away with the top 5, because there was one point he was the only car on the lead lap. So, Nick, you were one of the cars on the lead lap. How would you say your race went?
Well, it went pretty well. We just got lucky when the time of the caution fell, because obviously you can see there was only 6 cars on the lead lap at the end of the race. So with the way the cautions fell, it was just hard for people to get back on the lead lap during green flag pit stops. And we were just lucky, and it fell right into our lap, and we were able to get a top 5 out of it. Was not expecting that. We were running pretty decent, but when that happened, we just said okay and went with it.
That is true. You did have a very impressive save as you slid to the grass on the front stretch midway through the race. That could have easily been playoffs over, as you only were like +4 entering the event, and you left +21. So.
Yeah, that not hitting anything when we slid through there was very key, and not tearing the splitter off in the grass was very key as well. So we were able to come in, get some tires, and ended up with a top 5. So I can't complain about that one bit.
So if I would have told you before Daytona started, all those months ago, like 10 months ago, that you'd be sitting here with 4 races remaining in the season, still in championship contention in the round of 8, and you'd won it over, would you have believed it? And that started?
Not one bit. After last year was our first season, it was rough. It really was, but we came back a little stronger this year, and obviously our work over the off season really paid off. And we just had we've had a lot of lucky breaks, winning at Dover with pit stops, and we were able to hold the top 3 cars off there at the end. It was
Penske and a Red Bull car too.
Yeah, it was just bringing the right equipment to the right place and having everything fall into our lap right there. But our qualifying efforts aren't the best, but when we get in the race, we sort of pick up the pace,
So, I obviously told you this already, but to anyone who doesn't know, in the round of 12, just those 3 races, not counting playoff points, Nick Finn, he scored the most points of any driver on track. Not just playoff drivers, anybody. Of the 42 Premier Series drivers, you scored the most with 96 points. That's like an average of, 32 points a race? You had 2 top 10s, 1 top 5, which came in the Memorial Day Classic. So if you can keep that momentum going forward, this next round's going to be tough. Of the drivers still in, you have Max Anderson, who has 29 playoff points. You have Mo Akers, who has, I think, 21. Fitzwater, who has, like, 20. So you're stuck down there with 5. It's not going to be easy. But if you can keep it up,
It's
there's
not.
some tracks that are really good for your kind of car as well. You got Daytona, Las Vegas, North Wilkesboro. So
Yeah, but we've been battling the odds all season, so why stop now? But we're gonna throw our best effort at it and be happy with whatever we come out with. But we're gonna try to make the Final Four and see what we can get.
I'd love to hear it. So, of the 4 drivers that weren't as lucky as Nick on Sunday, the drivers who got eliminated from championship contention, you have TJ Friend, who's been fast all year, and honestly, next season I expect him to be just as quick if he returns to that Rich Petty Motorsports car, which should only be better. You have Gustav Odenberg. Honestly, he was a sleeper pick. He made it pretty deep in the playoffs. He made it halfway through, and I feel like he was someone flying under the radar. I don't think anyone really was considering him a championship threat, but he was around a lot. He finished, I think, 3rd at Sonoma. Just a bad break. He'd have a good race and then have something out of his control affect him, like at Iowa. Ryan Winters, speaking of Iowa, got eliminated. He avoided almost every crash at Iowa, but his luck didn't hold through to Charlotte, and he got royally destroyed in the big one. And then Nick Flood, the Season 5 champion, he finished 34 points back, almost a full race. Just a terrible round overall. We talked about how Nick scored 96 points this round. He scored 48, and that is including his playoff points that he had coming in, which if we check, coming in he had 10. So he scored 38 points this round in an RCR car with perfect ratings. So just a bad round. Not taking anything away from Nick Flood, but that used to be your former teammate, man. Who would have thought after your rookie year in Season 5 that of the 3 playoff drivers that were in the round of 12, 1 would finish 2 points to the good, David Strait barely making the next round, and 2, including your former ride in the 31, would be getting eliminated. You were 21 over the cutoff, which means you were 29 points over Odenberg and 55 points over Nick Flood, your former teammate. How does that make you feel, knowing that your own equipment is taking you places RCR never could have or never did?
Well, I don't want to take it away from RCR, but they have a good program. It's just it's hard for them to keep their equipment. It's the reliability of their equipment is just not there. And that's when I started my team. That's one of the things I really wanted to keep up was the reliability, because that's really what I felt my downfall was at RCR. For my headers and camshafts and everything that went wrong with the motors a lot of the time. That's one thing I didn't really want to happen. And I think this year we've had 1 or 2 maybe mechanical failures, which I take pride in.
That is true. We called you Camshaft Nick for a reason. But
Yeah.
the 8 drivers who we will see fighting on next week. You have Mo Akers. He was 34 points to the good. You had TJ Hanley, who won a race this round. He won at Iowa. He has 2 wins this season, and they both have come in the playoffs. Then you had Zach Fitzwater Sr., who was 40 points to the good entering the race. He leaves 28 to the good. And honestly, he was top 2 until I decided to bring him to the EI curse, which I've made a promise to the DEI boys I will no longer mention. I'm not even going to imply it, because as soon as that happened, he got destroyed. I'm not going to mention his quote-unquote rivalry with the Brights either. They've turned him twice, 2 weeks in a row, and I'm pretty sure they both happened after I mentioned the curse. So, then you have Nick right here, 21 to the good. Evan Byrne, 13 to the good. Dylan Ebrahimian, another DEI car, 10 to the good. Max Anderson, 4 to the good, and that would have been huge if he would have been eliminated. He has the most playoff points of anyone. He automatically starts the round 29 points to his credit, which is just insane that he almost got eliminated. That's half a race. And then David Strait, the other RCR driver, the last one standing, 2 points to the good. Dylan Ebrahimian, I mentioned Gustav Odenberg. Dylan Ebrahimian's got to be another one that's flying under the radar. I don't really talk about him that much during the races, but he's like Ryan Newman. He's just there at the end. He capitalizes on other people's misfortunes and scores points that way. And sometimes you just got to do that, especially whenever, like Dylan Ebrahimian, you only have 14 playoff points. But anything else you'd like to mention from the Premier Series race?
Well, speaking of the Memorial Day Classic, that was just crazy race in general. It's one of personally my favorite races. I love that this is the third annual, but it was Charlotte was a crazy race. With the big one on the front stretch, and then everyone getting trapped. It was crazy, wild.
Yeah, that big one that sent Philip John through the ground and then up into the sky and then basically turned into a UFO. We have confirmed that the fans and Philip John are okay. Luckily, the coronavirus, there was no one in the stands anyways. But let's move on to the FedEx Amateur Series from Rockingham, their round of 12 finale. Just getting everything in order here. All right. So, the official results from that race from Rockingham went Kyle Kesey, playoff driver, with the win. Then you had Landon Finway, second. Keegan Alsop Jr., third. Paul Wright, playoff driver, in fourth. Nick Alsop, playoff driver, in fifth. Then you had Tom Akers, Richard Sweet, sixth and seventh. Bafut Sacco, in eighth, with a playoff driver. Hayden Meadows, ninth, playoff driver. And then Servant Sarahan, 10th, playoff driver. The other playoff drivers finishing Daniel Colton, 12th. Chad Brennan, 14th. Luciana Reese in 22nd. Kurt Hamilton, 26th. William Stone in 36th. And then Sed Ismail, 40th. Sed Ismail had the points lead or was contending for the points lead for a large majority of the season with Kurt Hamilton and Nick Alsop. And obviously, Sed Ismail got eliminated yesterday, which is insane to me. I expected a round of 4 contender, but for sure round of 8. But to think Sed got eliminated at the end of the round of 12, and honestly wasn't even close, 10 points. That's 10 spots on the track. You'd have finished an average of like 3.5 spots higher per race, or 3.3 spots higher technically, per race, just to make those up, which is possible. It's easy. Well, not easy, but it could be done easily, and it just didn't happen. But of the drivers who did advance, you have Kyle Kesey, who won the race, 46 points up. The maximum points you can earn or gain in a race is 47, so he was 1 point away from locking himself in, no matter what, if there was another race. Paul Wright would have been second, 30 to the good. Chad Brennan, third, 27 to the good. Bafut Sacco, fourth, 16 to the good. Nick Alsop, fifth, 13 to the good. Kurt Hamilton, 11 to the good. Luciana Reese, 6 to the good. And then Servant Sarahan, barely 3 to the good. The drivers got eliminated. Hayden Meadows was 3 back. That Everham car, man, he was definitely, Everham as a whole was one of the weaker links in the playoffs. And I was rooting for him to make it a little further than he did. But nothing to hang your hat on there. Daniel Colt, 4 back. Sed Ismail, we mentioned, 10 back. And then William Stone in that KBM entry, 14 back. Fun fact, William Stone actually missed the race at Eldora. It didn't qualify in. 40 cars made it. 2 cars didn't. He was one of the 2 that didn't. Or 38 cars made it. 4 didn't. And he was one of the 4 that didn't. And he still made the playoffs. He won the playoff opener at Darlington. So William Stone's going to be a threat. His big brother Damian Stone is the all-time wins, or second now on the all-time wins board in the amateur series. So I think William Stone will be all right in the future. But a tough rookie season. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, and his playoff and championship fight comes to an end. In the round of
Williams. Speaking of William Stone, he can hang his hat high on this season. Making the playoffs your rookie year, missing a race, even doing it. That's quite a big accomplishment. He had a bad day today, which ultimately held him back, but nothing to be ashamed of, really, for that team.
And honestly, if you watch the Rockingham race, he finished very bad. I think he got 36th. Yeah, he finished 36th. He was on the same strategy Kyle Kesey was, and Kyle Kesey won. If you didn't watch the race was 40 laps. A lot of people, everyone but like 32 cars, because 8 didn't, had pit on lap 15 or 16, and the other 8 pit on lap 20. 40 laps. Do the math. That's a one-stop race. Everyone else had to pit on lap 30, because they pit 5 laps before. That means you can't go like 10 laps or they could go 10 laps longer than you. So Kurt Hamilton, Nick Alsop, Paul Wright, a whole bunch of people. 32 cars. pit lap 15. William Stone and Kyle Kesey were one of those who pit on lap 20. William Stone around 37, 38, even 39. I don't know. He just randomly disappeared. He had to pit. He ran out of fuel. So the KBM cars just couldn't save the fuel. I don't know how he could go 20 the first time and not 20 the last. I don't know if it's a pit error, and he just didn't get it full of fuel, which is not his fault. But Kyle Kesey could, and he was leading a long portion before the pit stops, and he led a long portion after the pit stops. He's had a good car. It wasn't a fluke win, but William Stone honestly should have advanced. He had the strategy, and it just didn't play out for him.
That's part of racing. He could have put himself with everyone else and went on the same strategy. Couldn't tell where he finished, but he decided to, try to make it a one-stop shop like Kyle Kesey did, and Kyle Kesey ended up on the right strategy, which William just couldn't get it done. It was just one of those up in the airs. But Kyle Kesey led quite a bit. He tied for the most laps led with Chad Brennan, which ultimately really helps Kyle Kesey because he was leading 5 laps before he went in, and then when he came back out, he just had to pass a few cars with those good tires, and voila, he was back up front.
Yep. So, I do notice, Nick, that the car you actually own, Nick Ventura Racing, with Damien Malorn, which made the playoffs, so congrats to that. The strategy bug bit y'all too. Y'all finished 37th. You didn't really have that good of a run today in general, around 20th to 30th, but really dropped off late in the race to P37, right behind William, actually.
Yeah, it was just a tough day for us. We got up there pretty close early in the first run, but after a pit stop, we sort of just fell back and they couldn't get anything going. But to make the playoffs this year, I couldn't complain. I really couldn't.
Nick Ventura Racing comes from the ARCA series. I believe that's where y'all made y'all's debut, right? Last season?
Yeah.
So this is y'all's first season in Cup in amateur, right? Or Premier in amateur?
I believe that's right.
So the fact that y'all made the playoffs 2 for 2 in your first season with the lowest ratings possible, that's saying something. So, hate to do this on air for you, but is there a little truth to the rumors that Damien Malorn might be going Cup racing in an NVR car next season?
You could obviously see that he performed well, but we're trying to make something work out so we can get in a cup car next year because it's well deserved. So I'm excited to see what he can do in Cup, and it looks like I'll be staying in Cup as well. The funding is coming in after the season quite a bit, and we're looking at keeping the same operation in FedEx Amateur Series. So we'll be looking to fill Damien's ride.
Maybe Jaden Scott.
AB.
Looking at my notes, I think that's all we got. So, once again, congrats on making it to the round of 8. Congrats on all your amateur success so far. And I hope to see you in the Final Four in a few weeks.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for watching the return episode of the BORA Speed Report. We're trying to stick to a new schedule. We have the Amateur Series Mondays. We have the BORA GP Series on Tuesdays. The BORA Call of Duty Premier Series on Wednesdays. The BORA Cup Series on Thursdays. And then we're going to try to aim to do the podcast on Saturdays. I know it didn't work this week, but that's going to be kind of like the focal point. Somewhere between Friday and Sunday. Saturday is just like a placeholder date. So, until then, thank you guys for watching. Thanks Spike Buck for coming on earlier. Thank you, Nick, for coming on now. Hope you guys enjoyed and actually stuck around to listen. A lot of good stuff happened in this episode, and hopefully we have a lot more to talk about next week. So, once again, thank you, Nick, and as always, we'll see you guys next time. Later.